Hey, this is StudyBug here, and today I'm going to be doing another exam review for AP Human Geography. So these are just terms that you should know. Space is the Earth's geometric surface. Place is an area bounded by space with human importance. Sequent occupants is a succession of groups over time. Scale is a relationship of an object or place to the Earth. Site is a physical characteristic of a place, and situation is a relative location. Another thing you should know is latitude and longitude. So latitude is the specific distance north and south, and longitude is the specific distance east or west from a location. Together, when you use latitude and longitude, you can find the absolute location. Next, you should know the types of regions. Formal regions are regions defined by boundaries. Functional and nodal regions have a central place with a practical purpose that then spreads out as distance increases, such as a radio station. Then there's vernacular regions, which are the collective perception of a region's residents, such as the South. These are the types of maps. A choropleth expresses difference using color. Isoline calculates data values between points. Dot density maps express the value and density of a geographical figure. Flow line shows different thickness of arrows to show direction, such as this immigration map. And then cartograms use different / distorted sizes of shapes to show value. Then there's also topographic maps, which show the arrangement of physical features such as bodies of water and elevation. So these are the different types of map projections that you should keep in mind too. Mercator is a map projection in the upper right-hand corner is an example, where they preserve shapes and size in lines of longitude and latitude, but the size is distorted. For an example, you can look at Greenland and Africa and see that the size is distorted. And then you can look, the Robinson map is another projection where everything is like slightly distorted, so nothing is perfect. Then there's a Peter projection, which is an equal area projection and shows true size. However, the shape is distorted. You should also know the types of diffusion. There's relocation diffusion when people are moving, and then there's also expansion diffusion. There's hierarchical, which is spreading through a hierarchy of people and places. Contagious is spreading through contact, and then there's stimulus, where the underlying idea is spread. Next thing you should know is is about population. Crude birth rate is the live births divided by the total population times 1,000. Crude death rate is live deaths divided by total population times 1,000. And the difference between these two is divided by 10 is the rate of natural increase. You should also know the dependency ratio, which is a measure of the number of dependents aged 0 to 14 and over the age of 65 compared to the working force, which is ages 15 to 64. This is the stages of the demographic transition model and that the country goes through as it develops. Stage 1 is when you have high birth rates and high death rates. Stage 2 is when you have high birth rates and the death rates are starting to lower. And then as you start to move to a more agriculturally based society, the birth rate decreases and the death rate decreases. And then when you move on to stage 4, they start to even out. And then in stage 5, the death rate starts to be more than the birth rate. The reason why is because as women get older and have more say in society, they're less likely to have kids. So that's why the birth rate goes down and the death rate would go up. Next, you should know these theories regarding population. Thomas Malthus' idea was that population will one day expand until there's not enough food for everyone, but in direct contrast, there was Esther Borsuk. And Esther Borsuk said, as population increases, people will find ways to increase the production of food. Next topic that you should keep in mind is migration. So migration is when individuals move from one place to another. Chain migration is when an individual or group of settlers come to a new place and establish a migrant foothold. And the reasons why people migrate is because of push factors and pull factors. Push factors push people away from their countries, and pull factors bring them into their country. So refugees are a special type of migrant who are forced to leave their homes due to persecution and conflict. So Regency's laws of migration are some laws that this person made up. So what he said was most migration is over a short distance. Migration occurs in steps. Long-range migrants usually move to urban areas and are male and are adults. Each migration produces a movement in the opposite direction. Migration is mostly due to economic classes. So modern day geographers had changed this so it would match today's world, because as you can see, some of these are not accurate in today's world. Also, you should know the terms of race, ethnicity, and nationality. Race is socially defined based on perceived biological differences. Ethnicity is based on language, religion, nationality, history in common. Nationality is belonging to a particular nation, whether you were born there or you were naturalized. Next up is language. So an official language is a language given special legal status. The US has no official language actually. Then there's a pidgin language, which is a grammatically simplified form of communication with key vocab. And as a pidgin language gets more advanced, it becomes a Creole language. And that's an example of that is called French Creole, which is what they speak in Haiti. And then you should also know what a dialect is, which is the form of language specific to a group. And finally, lingua franca, which is a common language used to communicate. An example of this is if you have someone from China and then you have someone from India, but if they both know English, then English would be the lingua franca. But these are ways to classify language into family, branch, and group. Family is like the broadest term. There are 18 language families. And there's a language branch, which is split up into the common language family. Then even smaller is the language groups, which is a collection of languages within a language branch. An example would be English. So Indo-European would be the family, Germanic would be the branch, and West Germanic would be the group. Next up is religion. There are two types of religions. There's ethnic, which means the religion is only meant for a specific culture. And then there's also universalizing, which means the religion is not meant for a specific culture, and usually those are the religions that are sending missionaries or trying to spread their views. So Judaism is an example of an ethnic religion. Its origin was about 5,007 years ago. Its heart is in Israel, but the scriptures are Torah and the Talmud. The denominations are Hasidic, Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, and Reconstructionalism. So the diffusion of Judaism began in 70 BC with the Roman destruction of the Jerusalem temple. Then there was also another diffusion in World War II where European Jews moved to Israel after World War II. Next religion is Christianity. So that began at around 30 BC, and what they are is the preaching of Jesus Christ. Its heart started in the early Roman Empire. Scriptures, the Bible. There are many denominations such as the Baptist, Roman Catholic, Greek Orthodox, Methodist, and Lutheran. And the diffusion came from the Mediterranean heart to large cities, and missionaries spread it further. So wrapping up our Abrahamic religions is Islam. Islam was in early 600 CE. Its heart was in Mecca. The scriptures Quran. The denominations are the Sunni and Shia. The Shia is mostly found in Iran, but the Sunni is more common. The diffusion is through hierarchical diffusion from the Middle East and North Africa through the Ottoman Empire. And you should also know the 5 pillars of Islam, which are the 5 daily prayers, Islamic creed, alms to the poor, pilgrimage to Mecca, and observance of Ramadan. Next up is Buddhism. Buddhism started 2,500 years ago. Its heart was in India. Scripture is like early Hindu texts combined with other teachings from the founder of Buddhism, who was the Indian prince. The denominations are East Asian, Tibetan, and Southeast Asian. And the diffusion is through hierarchical diffusion and relocation diffusion across East Asia. Moving on is Hinduism, which was founded 7,500 years ago. Its heart was in India. So there are many scriptures, such as the Vedas, Gitas, and the different denominations depending on different cults and deities. And the diffusion it originated in northern India and spread through relocation diffusion. You should also know the different architecture regarding each religion. So the first picture you see on the very left in the top is a a Jewish temple, and Jewish temples don't really have a specific architecture. And the next one in the middle is you can see is a cathedral. That's for Christianity. And there's actually many types of buildings that of churches. The one on the right, the one right next to that is a Hindu temple. The one the one right below the Hindu temple is the Buddhist temple, and the one to the left of that is the mosque. You should also know these two terms, which is we're moving on from culture. It's called environmental determinism, is the environment determines human behavior, and possibilism, which means people can adapt to the environment. And you should also know the different types of land ownership. There's township and range, which is based on lines of latitude, longitude, which is the second picture on the side, which is split up into squares. There's mets and bounds, so it's based on the natural landscape. And then there's long lots, which is narrow footage, and it's usually against a river. So that wraps up part one of our AP Human Geography review. Thank you for watching, and part two, and go watch part two so you'll have a complete review. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!